All right, so we have round 2 of Nepo versus Ding. So this is the first win of the match. So we have wins in round, we talked about, we have a draw in round 1, win round 2 by Nepo, draw, and then a win by Ding, followed by another win by Nepo. So basically Nepo 2, Ding 1 out of 14 games. All right, let's go to this game. First decisive result. And as we talked about with the class, which is a lot of decisive results, first 5. We'll have to check that historically, but to not be a rout, right? To not just have one person continuing to win, but to have both of them scoring points in the first 5 rounds. That's a lot of points to have 3 out of 5 decisive results. Okay, so here is first game, first win by Nepo. Okay, so it basically just becomes a Queen's Gambit decline. So you have an option here. You can play b6. You've looked at Queen's Indian defense, right? With b6 and the Queen's Bishop develops. Play d5 and you have standard Queen's Gambit decline, as if you had gone d4, d5, just transposes to the same thing. You can play a Bogo Indian with Bishop b4 check. But the idea is that with knight f3, they're not going knight c3. So we've seen this a lot, right, guys? This keeps coming up. I guess it's fashionable these days, right? All this Queen, I mean, of course, Queen's Indian, different versions of this. I mean, this is timeless stuff of d4, c4, and then black either goes d5 or knight f6. Okay, somehow the computer just went by itself. All right, so d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, h3, d takes c4, e3, c5. So now going back to move h3, I don't know. I just think this is a bad move. And I haven't really seen what the analysts are saying about this, but he's trying to do some kind of novelty, and it's just really, do you need this move? It's just not the way to go. I don't know. I mean, I guess he's trying something new in this position that's been played, so many millions of times. But really, h3, I just don't understand it. Can you guys see a purpose? I mean,
is that restricting the knight?
I mean, but do you really need to right now? If it's like an attack game, and you have to worry about the knight attacking f2 with the bishop on c5, but there's nothing like that, we'll get kicked out. It's like, really, what is he doing with it then? Maybe he wants to play g4. I don't know. I mean, that doesn't look feasible. What do you think? Is there, other than like a waiting move? But a waiting move is like, what black's gonna, I mean, black could just develop naturally and play c5 and stuff. So it just doesn't make much sense to me. What do you guys think?
Maybe it's got a head start, like for the future when he's castled. That's, I don't know. It's the only thing I could think of. Like some
but if
kind
he
of
really
weird
wants
head
to, he
start.
can. It's what, sir?
Just some kind of strange head start, like to start pushing his pawns, like on, because black is gonna castle king side, I think.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yeah, I mean, ostensibly you could begin like a g4, g5 when he's castled king side. That's the only aggressive reason I can see of playing g4, but it's not like the position calls for g4 anyway. Maybe with like an e4 opening, right, which is more aggressive. But right now you'd have to build your position more. It's like Queen's Gambit is more central play, right? So you'd really have to develop your position more before committing to g4. It's just because whenever your opponent does something like this, of course, black will try to create the most unfavorable circumstances for white, right? And given h3, it's kind of like if someone plays a6 or a3, like the Anderson's opening or something, right? a3 or a6, like basically you're going to try to make it the least justified as possible. It's like, you don't need that move. It's just completely unuseful. Hey, Uday. Long time.
Hi, yeah.
How you been?
I have a tournament to go.
You have a tournament?
No. Yeah, it's a FIDE rated one, rapid.
Oh yeah, when is it?
Tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Okay, so it's on Sunday. Have you played in a FIDE event before?
Yeah, I've played a few, but this is going to be my first in quite some time.
Nice. So rapid, how many minutes?
10 plus 5, and it has 9 rounds.
Okay, cool. Good luck in that.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
So you get warmed up a bit by watching the World Championship games. And have you been following the World Championship?
Not actively. I've been a bit busy in college. I have exams coming up, but yeah, I've been looking at them, and I'll be honest, I didn't think it was going to be a good championship until Ding won his games.
You said you didn't think that Ding would be doing well?
Yeah,
It would be, or that it would be good
like I
games,
mean,
or that it would be good games in general.
after the first one, after the first one.
Yeah. We're looking at his loss with H3, and I don't know. What do you think? We're talking about this move. I just don't get it. Again, I don't know what people are saying about it, but it's just not a useful inclusion.
I don't even play like that in bullet. It's weird.
I mean, look, like I was saying, maybe G4, but he never went for anything like this. So anyway, Nepo just takes. So he treats it like it becomes a queen's gambit accepted with the inclusion of H3. Like, do you ever want H3 in that? No. Maybe he even sees it hurting white in some ways. But I think it's more so just that it's a wasted move. So E3, C5, so just pure queen's gambit. You can just imagine this pawn's gone. It's almost like he's playing the queen's gambit kind of with the white pieces, right? Or like white can do that sometimes, right? Like out of an English, white can play C4 and then, black strikes back with D5 or C5 and then white ends up taking. So white can treat. So it's like, yeah, it's weird. But yeah, it's like a queen's gambit with the tempo up. Okay, so bishop takes C4, A6, castles, knight C6, knight C3, and B5. Bishop B3. So again, this is a line that matches a queen's gambit. Now I don't think this will be in the opening book because nobody plays H3. Maybe it's been played a couple times. So it's kind of a novel. It's just a terrible novelty if it is one. But yeah, again, very basic queen's gambit stuff. Queen's gambit stuff, this stuff. A4. I played this a lot with black. A4, B4. Anand has played this a lot. He's played the accepted quite a bit. 94. Now, actually, this doesn't look, so far, it's not like it's that bad for white. I've seen Capablanca doing stuff like this. He'd go A4, and then after B4, he'd bring his knight to E4, centralize it. And if the knight takes, the bishop will take and apply pressure on the diagonal. And you can see, though, that black does have some weaknesses. Well, we saw how he handles this later. We briefly looked at the pawn storm. But yeah, there is a particular weakness here for black. A few, but in particular, what is white aiming at that he has to be worried about? You guys see any pressure? Well, he's putting a direct pressure there right now, but it's just a permanent weakness in terms of not being able to be guarded by a pawn. Which pawn is that?
C5.
Yeah, C5. Nice answer. I mean, you can also say C6 is weak. The entire C file is weak, basically. C7 is naturally weak, right? No pawn can guard it. Everywhere that can't be guarded by a pawn. So the entire file, basically. So that would be white's focus, generally speaking. So Nepo needs to find a way around this to make it work. Where goes knight A5. Now this is interesting. So when I first looked at this, I'm like, what's going on? He's hanging his C pawn. And I mean, I'm just going to explain it common sense. We'll just look at it in a common sense kind of way without going super in depth into all the lines. But yeah, he does not take on C5. So here's the line that Stockfish gives at least for taking. Takes. So it seems like white's winning the pawn, right? Takes back. But then he just goes after the pawn. He just gets it back. That's it. And it says just toss it at him and then something like this. Yeah, it's kind of a random line, but the idea is that after knight d7, you just can't hold on to it. The only thing that can possibly defend it is the queen, but then she's walking into the rook. And then they'll take it with the queen under pressure. So there's really, after knight d7, they're just going to get it back. It's going to be bishop pair for white. But look at the bishop on c1. It's going to take a while to, it's going to have to play b3, bishop b2. So I don't know, it looks okay. But then again, if the knight's coming to c5, you see it's going to put pressure on d3 and b3. So it doesn't look that great for white, actually, does it? If you want to go, for example, this just looks bad. Because you don't really have bishop c. You don't want to go bishop c4 to defend this. Well, first of all, you can take it. Second of all, you probably can win a pawn. If you might be able to do this. It looks like you're just winning a pawn. Because we had the two knights attacking b3, right? It says a weak. Oh, what's that, Nikki? You said?
I was just saying that's a nice move.
Which move?
Exactly.
This?
No, the whole combination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so but sometimes, yeah, in general, it seems like b3 is bad, but you can often play b3. Usually when b3 works is when the knight goes to c4. You guys may have seen that. So the knight on like d2 to c4, like knight, something like that. But here it's just bad, right? So that's why I guess he didn't go into it. But it's interesting because it's a good, I mean, look, this is the depth of his play. Let's see if the computer likes knight a5. The computer is not looking at that, but let's say what evaluation is the exact same. Yeah, I think so. So that's really interesting. So he's playing like a computer there in a way, understanding this complexity of, I mean, look, he knows the pawn's going to be taken back, but still, the fact that the most natural move is take. But if you take, what do you really get out of that? Maybe you attack an isolated pawn, but there's nothing much going on there because he's still going to have the problems on the c file. So he chooses more dynamic approach, which is pretty typical for Nepo. Now the knight's misplaced, but as we saw, it looks at b3, can maybe push the c4 pawn. So he's going for the wing play now. Okay, first thing, okay, this was complicated a little bit, right? Now we have another complicated thing, which is why do you take with the pawn rather than the queen? Well, this has to do with the setup he's choosing. He has to make a decision now about his entire setup. So what do you think? What would you take with? What are you got to weigh the two out? Pros and cons of taking with the queen versus the pawn. What do you guys think?
Of course, I would have taken with the queen.
That's the natural move, right? Just like it's the natural move to take on d4, right? These are natural moves, but sometimes you get, you gotta take those risks in order to get something out of this. So like last night, I actually had an interesting game in DC Chess League. So I could have done something boring and retreated, or I could sack a piece for 2 pawns. So of course I sacked the piece for 2 pawns, but my opponent defended really well, and then I had to hold. I had a knight down. I had 2 pawns for a knight in the end game, and he made one mistake, and then I was able to throw my pawns forward at his king, and his knight got destabilized. So I was able to use the extra pawns to win his knight back and then got it draw. But yeah, without I went for the gusto, so sometimes
that's
you have to
good.
do it. So queen takes is fine, but pawn takes is more aggressive. Well, what are the merits of pawn takes?
Well, the open G file.
Yeah, G file. That's basically, except for well, there are pros and cons, right? So the pro is the G file. What about the double pawns themselves? What do they offer? They can sometimes be weak, but here I don't really see them being weak. Well, Nikki, you mentioned earlier H7. We briefly looked at it. H7 actually does become more fragmented for what it's worth. But you got to, so you take out a little bit of a structural weakness, but there are benefits to the double pawns, which are
They're helping the center.
yeah, exactly. So anytime you see these pawns like this, they're looking at all those squares. Well, center / king side, but yeah,
So prepares e5, right? You can,
what's that?
It prepares e5. You can attack the center.
Sometimes sometimes you'll do this, like e5, e4 is an idea, right? I mean, not yet, but in the future, yeah. Once you're ready. But the interesting thing is it is like a little cocoon for your king. Your king kind of hide in this cave. Even though it's in the center, it can often provide additional shelter. What's that, Leia?
That formation kind of reminds me of a tank in the sense that in an ideal situation, they could perhaps march forward. But on the other hand, tanks can easily be, like if you have the right type of missile, they can easily be dispatched. And so there's also, they can be strong, but there's also like a weakness, which is the same of this formation. And
it's like, well, and then you got the HIMARS, right? Like if they get
Good analogy.
Yeah. Yeah, I called it a cave, but I think a tank is an appropriate way of viewing it. Yeah, a cave would be more like if you're hiding in here, maybe on the side, you're sniping from you. More military terminology. I view it like let's say the bishop isn't here, I view it like it's sniping from a cave. Yeah, you can use whatever analogy you want, whatever analogy works best. So like even when you think about the pawns, sometimes when they're in the middle marching forward, you can think of them like spears, like spearheads or foot soldiers, but they can also be serving as a shield, which is more like the tank, like the defensive purpose of the tank, because you're getting it later, right? Shield or some defensive military purpose.
yeah, I was thinking also it can kind of be a shield for other pieces. I was thinking of a Morphe game. I don't think it was Opera Box one, but in the opening, his pawns, they kind of act like a shield for the king, and I think the queen as well. And like the bishops are like on the side, and they're like sniping outwards.
I wonder which game that is. Do you think you could find it?
I think I
And
have.
if you find it later, maybe it's under his top games or something, one of his champions.
I know. I think we looked at it in a study, so
Okay.
I'll check one of those.
I'm trying to think of what you're referring to. Yeah, if you find it, that'd be cool to see. So E4, again, this is like very typical Queen's Gambit accepted stuff. There's even a line in the Queen's Gambit accepted where, you know, D4, D5, C4 takes, and then E4 is played right away. So very common thing, whether it happens at the beginning or later. Even a Queen's Gambit accepted as formation could come out of a Slav. So a Slav is kind of, you know, delayed. You take it later, but you get the same types of structures, and white will get E4 in for the most part. But the thing about E4, yes, it's aggressive, but look at the D4 pawn. So yeah, black is a little weak on C5 theoretically, and theoretically white's weak on D4 now. See, he went from solidity to kind of weakness now. Computer takes it from -0.2 to -0.7. So in other words, Stockfish believes that it thinks, assesses, whatever you want to call it, that now suddenly Nepo has a pretty solid advantage, you know, as if his position's almost worth a pawn more. So then he goes for C4. Now he makes the choice to bypass, right? This is very interesting, right? They have all these pawns lined up. But he decides to bypass and focuses on the queen side expansion. So it's interesting because even though D4 is weaker, he's actually taking the heat off of D4. So it's like Ding didn't choose to take on C5, and Nepo chose not to take on D4. So they're both kind of keeping the tension. And now he's going to castle queenside. That's his decision. So this is why, you know, this doubling the pawns is huge decision in terms of, you know, which plan you're going to take. Because you have the G file for your rook. We talked about the benefit of the doubled pawns. But yeah, slight fragmentation and weakening, but also the benefits, right? And by pushing, he's going to castle queenside and keep it, even though it looks scary. He's like, how does white actually get through? They can't really get through B4 anymore. Maybe queen E1, but you can just go queen B6 or something, or knight C6, so you can defend B4. C4 is already defended twice. It's a little scary looking, as you'll see, but he assesses properly that there are no breakthroughs by Ding. So he's actually able to castle queens. I call that cold-blooded move, right? Castling here, whenever your king's in, like just walking into the line of fire through an X-ray. But he's going to get right out of there. You know, he's going to get right off the line. King B8. So he's decided to castle queenside. He's kept it close. He has dynamics here. Still has some pressure on the center, as we'll see. And he has the G file pressure. So pretty much everything is looking good, right? It almost feels like he's up a pawn, but he's not, right? We both have 8. No, wait, is he? Yeah, we both have 7, right? So yeah, it just feels, because usually in a Queen's Gambit accepted, you capture, you keep your pawn. In this case, he's not up a pawn, but still, somehow it just feels like he is. I don't know, he's doing really well. So rook E1, F5. Striking at E4, so you can see a lot of pressure on the G file in the diagonal, leading to F3 and G2. So that's another strong move. Now it looks like he can take it, right? Well, in many cases, this will happen where if they take, you immediately justify that by taking on F3 because the pin. But it's interesting because there's not actually, you know, that you don't actually win the knight right now, do you? If you take, right, it's delaying on here now. Oh, there it goes. If you take, then the queen could take. It's glitching on me. Huh. My connection's not great right now. That's weird. Anyway, I guess we're not going to use the computer. We'll just figure it out. But yeah, it's saying takes, and then you can take on D4 at the very least. But it's not like you're going to win the knight. More so that you're probably just going for the D pawn. Oh, that's what you do though. Yeah, you take this immediately. So rather than taking it the other, because again, you don't win the knight. Like if the queen were not there, you'd be able to take, but it's guarded. Instead of doing that though, you just take advantage of the fact that the knight's pinned. Take here. And then if the knight takes, you have this nasty check. And then it looks dangerous. Maybe queen infiltration. Certainly a big attack. That looks very dangerous.
That should be queen H2.
That looks tempting. Maybe bishop E3. And then, is there a mate here? Because the king can run out to E2. I mean, it's certainly a strong attack, though. Well, you know, you could, You can just take on d3.
Yeah, let's just take the bishop.
Just take the bishop. Now you're threatening mate. Okay, queen takes. At the very least, though, you're just down in exchange with a raging attack, so that's fine. But this is a nice move, I think. I mean, obviously he wants to unleash his bishop, right? But it's immediately justified. But you can really see, even though he bypassed, he chose not to take this pawn, but he still maintains pressure on d4, which is really important. And there's nothing really, so it's kind of a one-way street, because there's nothing really directly that Ding is attacking, right? Therefore, he's pretty much in control of the game. And you can see also he can't win this. You know, remember this tactic? Why can't the queen take the knight?
Takes knight. Discovered attack.
Discovered attack on the queen. Yeah, technically it's called discovered. So if you unleash something, if the king were here, if you move it away and you unleash something that checks, it's a discovered check. If you unleash something that attacks something else, it's called a discovered attack. Kind of weird, right? But
Yeah.
technically, I think that's called a discovered attack, although you are checking it. But it's about the piece that discovers, right? This is making its discovery on the queen, right? So bishop e5 check, and then it's like in the French. There's a trap like that in the French where if they take the d pawn.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, you've fallen for it before.
Oh yes, in
Yeah, we
tournaments.
all have.
Mhm.
But you can see if you take, and there are lines where often white allows this in the sack line, in the e4 lines, they often allow this in the queen's gambit accept, and they just ignore it, you know? They just leave it there. So the thing is, by taking, you kind of clog things up. So it's very smart, I think, that he doesn't take the pawn yet, because he wouldn't really be winning it anyway, as I said, right? But even if he would, he doesn't want to, because he's just going to apply more and more pressure. And ultimately, as you can see, this g4 pawn, like in that line, nice. Like in that line, it ultimately does come under tons of pressure, right? And here it comes again. So now that's his game, right? His game is all about just, I mean, he's got a few things going on, but really he's just focusing on the d pawn, combined with his tactical pressure on the file and diagonal leading to f3 and g2 and beyond, as well as these guys right here. And that's kind of always an endgame advantage too, right? You can always, that's actually how he wins at the very end. We looked at it briefly, right? Remember what he does with these pawns?
Yeah, and that h3, like way back in the day, like, you know, I guess the theory of him wanting to attack the king at castle kingside in the future backfired because, well, I mean, I know
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
way
and that's why it
back,
made even more sense to castle queenside, right? Although he
Yeah.
didn't really have anything anyway, but
no.
and that would be interesting too if Nepo was able to do like a bayonet attack with g5, g4, and just attack his h pawn and crack open his king.
Yeah,
That would be even more poetic justice.
yeah.
But yeah, he just has everything going on here. The computer is giving him a -2 advantage, so like a solid, as if his position's worth 2 pawns, right? But yeah, he's getting material here. It looks like, you know, he's gonna probably collapse here. And he has what I was talking about with these two though. He can play c3 later, right? That's how he wins the game at the end. He just runs a c pawn. So he has the 3 against 2 majority by bypassing. Again, that's why it feels like he has an extra pawn, because in the queen's gambit, you take the pawn here, and but in that case, black would actually hold an extra pawn, right? But yeah, they'll have doubled pawns though in that case. But yeah, it just feels like there's so much dynamism, and white, really nothing much for white to do. So this is where he kind of makes a mistake and allows this beautiful exchange sacrifices we talked about. And then the reason for it is very important, but he is threatening to take on d4 though, so it's just a really tough spot, you know, for him. It's about to collapse here. I suppose even if bishop e3, I think we can probably even collapse d4 with the e5 push, as Archie was getting at. I'm guessing this should work to get this back, right? That does look pretty strong. You still can't take this because the collapse on g2. And we're just going to take, like, let's say he moves the queen, you just take this beautiful pawn's coming, right?
Right.
Otherwise, he's on the line of, yeah, he's just going to get this. So it's just lost, I think, because he's getting the piece back with a huge steamroller, pawn avalanche. So anyway, he sees the pressure here and he figures he'd counterattack, but then the rook sacks. Now, what was the reason again? Why did he sack the exchange?
To get the
D4
The
with the
D4
deflect the knight.
The D4.
D4, exactly. So we know, again, we see his game right here is really focusing on, again, mostly on D4, but combined with G file, combined with his pawns. Central pressure. It's just everything. He's really doing everything at once. So it's a really nice example as we've looked at a few times. We looked at a Fallujah game like that, across the board play, right? He's center, obviously, and then queen side and king side. So yeah, he ends up sacking it to get the pawn. But now he's, okay, so far he's up 1 pawn for the exchange. And he has ideas like knight to b3, right? Unleashing the rook, discovered attack on the queen, and pick up the, just get your exchange back with interest, right? So queen gets out of the way. Then he kicks the knight out. And then apparently it's a blunder just to retreat your knight. But that's how bad the position is. As we looked at Nikki, right? I guess he has to take h7 and then bishop c5, and black just has an overwhelming advantage. Too much pressure. Okay. So and then and why does he take c2? So he's just trying to undermine all the weak points in white's position. We're just going to crash through. So why does he take on c2?
Because if the rook takes him back, then he can push his pawn.
Exactly. Oh, push this one.
I said, no. If he takes the bishop, then the rook would take him back, and then he could push his b pawn.
He can. Well, he's going to push the pawns, but he has something even now, right away, that he can do to win something.
Oh yeah, bishop could just take the pawn.
Yeah, that's what happened exactly. And then we looked at some crazy. Remember, we briefly looked at this one, some crazy computer line, but this is the common sense line. Just take it, attack the rook, and we're going to get our pawns rolling. 2 pawns for an exchange, bishop pair, pawns rolling. You know, it's overwhelming advantage. Yeah, so it's interesting how such an innocuous looking retreat of knight f3 just fails. But again, it's the exact same concept. Remove the defender, remove the defender. Sack the exchange, get the bishop pair, right? Weaken his dark squares by doing so. Remove the knight from d4 with a nasty x-ray against the queen. Queen moves out of the way. Remove the defense from E. Actually, he does it twice in a row. It's just remove the. In a way, it's so much complexity. He kind of already pierced the fog of war there and handled the complexity when he castled queenside and moved his king and kind of figured out all these maneuvers earlier, pushing to c4 and rook g8. He did all that. Made the proper assessments. Now it's actually pretty straightforward tactics, right? In a way, because it's just irresistible. Anand actually made a comment. He made a couple points on Twitter about it's interesting if you read Anand's tweets about that, where he talks about the reasoning behind this. But it's really straightforward. He had another point. I didn't quite see that one, but I know he's talking about this exchange attack. But it's very straightforward, really, because you're getting d4, and then you want to take e4. Why not? So you get rid of the knight first. See the knight. There's 2 pieces guarding it, right? We have 2, rather the rook 2, sorry, 3, because we have 2 attackers only. They have 1, 2, 3 defenders. So we get rid of one of them while picking up another bishop. Sorry. I mean, with knight takes c2, I meant, but first we kick the knight. And then we take the bishop. So now we've removed 2 defenders.
Yeah, the move is nice.
We still have 2 attackers. He only has 1.
Kicks the knight and it protects h7. That's
H7.
clever.
Yep.
Which one was it?
Kick
This pawn here.
F6, yeah. protects the
We
pawn.
open up laterally.
Right. That's clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's not a huge deal, but no, he can take, I think. Actually, I think that was his best move. Let's see. So it's here, bishop. Actually, okay, let's say you hang this one. Interesting. I think the knight might get trapped. It feels like the knight's going to get trapped.
Yeah,
on
it's a little trappy over there.
Yeah, he actually has no escape right now. So we just start attacking the knight. I think it gets trapped. Do you not like queen e5? Because they want to play e5. Oh, how about queen g7? If you go queen g7, then e5 fails to mate because it unleashes it. Oh, it's looking at queen f4. But yeah, everything is strong here. The knight's misplaced. Oop. So yeah, we just win the pawn, crashing through, and he doesn't even trade off the trade off the rook.
I love that attacking the rook gets a question mark, like taking a pawn and attacking the rook gets a question mark exclamation point.
Yeah, okay.
What?
It says
Like,
it thinks that this is minus 4.4 if he does the crazy line. It says this is minus 3.4, which is good enough. And again, that's if the human plays every move it wants it to make.
Right.
So yeah, this is the common sense human move, right?
Hmm.
So really, when you look at it, it's not crazy, you know, the things that he does, it's bold, you know, it's bold, and it's
Very
he
bold.
has the foresight, he knows his opponent's capabilities, he attacks weak points. But there are certainly some counterintuitive moves, like playing knight a5 and things like that. There's some really tricky moves. Yeah, it shows deep understanding of the position. So he is playing like a champion. I mean, I gotta say, yeah, he's playing really, really strong. So c3.
Take care, Leah.
Hi there.
Yeah, I mean, basically, he's the best Russia has right now. You know, he's the top Russian GM right now, right? So they're like, hey, we got to produce someone. We haven't had a champion for a while. We're trying to come up with somebody. But it is interesting that there's always some geopolitical implication, like US versus USSR. That was a huge Cold War battle, like with Sputnik and everything, like arms race, space race, the chess race, you know. So now you have the other Cold War effectively. I still think we are in the Cold War part 2, but effectively you have the other Cold War powers, Russia and China, duking it out. So it's interesting, but yeah, definitely important. But you know, Nepo has taken a stance against the war even from the early days. So it's interesting that he's not really a mouthpiece for the Kremlin, which is very interesting. I'm hoping he could take a stand against them with his platform, you know, hey, who knows? He might stop the war. You never know.
And he doesn't want to go to jail.
That's diplomacy. What's that?
He doesn't want to go to jail.
Yeah, but the thing is that, yeah, it's interesting. They haven't killed Navalny, right? Even though I'm sure they tried. But yeah, they have to be careful, right? But especially with someone like Nepo, because Russia really values chess. So I guess he just got away with it when these GMs, right? Because it would look very bad if they're like, just because there's like opposition to what people are mad about, that they would do something like retaliate against GMs, which the people really respect, right? So yeah, I in a way, maybe he's kind of untouchable, maybe. What's that?
It won't be the first time that Russia has, done something against one of its top players.
What Kasparov?
Taimanov.
What are they doing? Oh, you mean like, but this was between you mean when Fischer crushed him?
Yep.
Yeah, I guess the context is different though. Well, right, that was for a candidates match, but that was after, and it was against the US, which they're obviously really, you know, inflamed about. But I guess it's a different circumstance though, because he had already kind of been humiliated, right? Or he humiliated them, whereas they want, okay, maybe if Nepo loses, fine, then maybe they'll do something, right? But if Nepo's a hope for them to win and reclaim their chess glory as a nation, right? Then I don't see it. I don't see them doing. How could they do anything to him? You know, that's like top red. He's like the top diplomat. No, even though he's against them, but in a way, but still, even if people didn't know about it, right, that he's against them, it's still like, hey, this is our guy, right? You know.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean,
So they give him a pass.
Yeah, exactly. At least for now, he gets a pass. But that means, in other words, if he gets a pass, that means he might have some liberty to say things that, for instance, journalists can't under the repressive regime. So, I don't know, just to get a little political, but you know, you can't avoid the politics in this context. But yeah, I don't know. I'm optimistic. I'm a little maybe too idealistic, but I don't know. That would be kind of cool. But I do think that chess could be used as diplomacy. So wouldn't that be kind of cool if Nepo is able to actually influence a lot of people? Because I don't know, he has leverage. That's all I'm saying. He does have leverage because chess is huge in Russia.
Yeah.
And they want to win. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna win, but stop the war. It's like, hey, if you don't stop the war, I'm gonna throw the match. You never know. All right. Yeah, I'd be curious to see if he makes a move like that.
I don't think he will, David. I have a friend that lives in Russia. Things that I'm encountering with her, I don't think he will in the position he is, because like I said, he doesn't want to go to jail.
But again, well, right now he's not getting jail, that's for sure. He's not getting jail during the match. One, it would look terrible. Yeah, because they want him to win. Now, if he loses, yeah, he's like, hey, you better win this match.
Yeah, it's upping the stakes a lot.
He's playing for his life. Possibly. No, but Serper, there's an interesting blog by Gregory Serper where he talked about like if you lose, they're basically going to send you to some military base in Siberia. Under the Soviet Union, because if you win, you get nice. Yeah, it's like Spassky too. Like I think he lost his nice apartment or something. If I recall,
was in the
that's really
World Youth
timing.
Championship.
I've lost everything when he lost that. What's that?
That was in the World Youth Championship.
For him.
Yeah, the Gregory Soper article.
Oh, that's what he's talking about. But where you'd be sent to Siberia.
No, like that was just something personal for him because he was in the army and he had another tournament at the time, which was like intra USSR army thing. And his commanding officer asked him why he wanted to go to the youth championships when he would easily win the intra army tournament. And he said that he wanted to play against better players, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but in general, he was all right. But I remember he was saying, I don't know if it's the same article or not, but I know he was saying that if you don't do well, maybe in gen, not just him. We'll have to find the article. There's a blog you wrote on chess.com, right? But he was saying that basically yeah, if you're in the military at the time, which I guess a lot of people, then you'd be sent. You can get it out, Jake. Go get it. Okay. Yeah, anyway, there's the politics of it. But it'll be interesting to see if Nepo, why, especially if he wins, if he takes this, because he already has taken the stance, right? But to see if he does something more. Because if he's an idealistic guy, like if he's driven by ideology, or like by, or by values, which it seems he is, because it's like it's a moment where people feel obligated to do something, because it's such a terrible situation. Anyway, so he takes on here and takes on e4, and then it's pretty much over. And then that's where the pass pawn. See, I love it how he combines everything there, right? Central play, bishop pair, right, and then ultimately, removing the defenders of these points. So like I said, though, once he did all this work, a lot of players can find this, right? A decent player could find the exchange stack, and particularly this one. This is very straightforward. You attack the knight, you take the bishop, you take the pawn, and then he plays this move, but then you push the pawn, and then you win. Take. So it's like, yeah, it's still nice, but it's all about, it's the culmination of all this hard work. That's the thing. But you have to know how to execute, of course. And then he resigns. It's interesting, actually. He has, in effect, the rook is kind of trapped across the board.
Yeah, like there's just no way to attack the king, even though he's like wide open on the B file. Like there's just no way to get him.
Beautiful. No, even if you had to go king A8, you're still shielded on
Yeah.
there's no checks there, and you're shielded for now by the bishop. Even if he sacks and exchanges, but yeah, he can't. The rook is stuck. It's lost because they have no checks, as you said. And where does he go? He'd have to give the exchange back, right? But then there's this guy. So you see, when you combine the attack on the rook with this pawn, where does the rook go that doesn't allow black to promote? Only one safe move. Where's that?
D.
D, right. D what?
He could go to D2.
Exactly. He could, but why does it fail? That's why he resigned, because he just can't. It doesn't work. We'll try to visualize it from here. What would black do? Given all of black's pressure, what would Nepo do?
Just from
He would just go ahead and promote the
Yeah.
pawn.
Obstruction.
Oh.
So he's sort of like trapping. The rook is de facto trapped, because if he goes to the one safe square, it's not.
But you also skewer the knights.
It's
I
not
mean, the
safe because
rooks.
he's getting.
You move the bishop to
I was thinking
B4.
that too. Yeah.
You can, but we don't care about that because we're just gonna get a queen.
And he
Yeah,
might
you
trade with
don't
us or
even need
something.
to. Oh, check this out. Wait. Well, you're winning now. You have too much material.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can destroy his pawns, unleash your bishop. Oh, beautiful. And then he blocks, you take. Anyway, you're up too much material. No, check this out. And then you just take this. But if you otherwise, but you're up a bishop right now, and you just keep going.
Yeah, you just take that rook. No, you don't take the rook.
Yeah, that's over. That's game.
Yeah.
And then he has to lose the queen. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
getting mated. He's getting mated. Nice. That's a mate.
Yeah.
That's actually a mate right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool, huh? So anyway, yeah, it's game.
Great game.
By the time he plays C2, he just gives up because he knows he's losing more material. Oh, what's that?
That's a great game.
It is, yeah. So that was really exciting. Just in round 2, after he already had pressure in round 1, and then 3 was kind of a dry draw because it didn't really matter to Nepo. He's fine. He could take some draws. That was with White too. It was like, I'm not going to take any risk right now. I just had a great win. I'll put the onus is on Ding, right? And then Ding wins. So I mean, he's pretty. He's got to vindicate himself because that's pretty humiliating to play H3 and lose like that, right? It's like that was just a total fail. So then but then hey, this is a really elegant game though. It was very smooth. This is different though. I guess it shows you the difference in their styles and just what was available to him. But whereas that was a messy game, this is just, well, he had a little bit of a complicated sacrifice, but it will make a lot of sense when we look at it. That's the one I sent in the email as well, the picture of it. So we had the picture of Nepo's exchange sack, and then now it's Ding's pawn sack, because the pawn sack is like sort of the precursor to the exchange sack. They're both similar ideas, but the exchange sack was almost, you'll see, it was almost by necessity. It just worked. Okay, so we have like a 4 knights English. What's the exact name for this? I forget. Is it like I think it's just 4. It's called like King's, as I thought. King's English 4 knights. The King's English, and you could fianchetto your bishop if you want. Goes E3. Bishop there. It's funny enough, you know, this actually came up in a blitz game I played the other day, like right before this, and then I didn't know the line, so I took back with my you're supposed to take with your B pawn or your queen, and I'm like, I'll just take with my D pawn. Why not? Because I was going to take here. I've seen Carlsen do stuff like, I'm going to play E4, but everyone loses in this line. It seems natural enough, right? You're like, I'm gonna go E4, you know, move out my bishop, maybe castle queen side on E5. But yeah, it's actually a bad move. So
Is
he
it like
takes,
a reverse Sicilian almost, or like a
yeah, it
reverse?
is. Yeah, like a reversed close Sicilian, where they go
Okay.
bishop B5 and take. You know, I've done that before. I did some prep on that. This guy, I was working with a guy, Demo Werner, and he helped me with some prep. It worked out really nicely. It was actually one of my best games. It was really fun. So I took on C6. What happened is, because he didn't have the knight, he couldn't bother me with there. So I just went like E5. What was the other knight on C3? I went like E5, F5, Queen E8 to H5, knight maneuvered to F4, knight comes to F5. Everything just came in. Bishop came to H3 against his fiancé. Yeah, it was just really bad. And yeah, I ended up getting a fun mate out of that. So interestingly, by removing the knight, it sometimes helps the kingside attack. But obviously Nepo's taking on a more modest approach. He's not playing F5 like a Grand Prix attack. He's playing more quietly. But he doubles his pawns. And then, yeah, you generally want to play, it's very natural. Again, this is what I've seen Carlsen do sort of with black in the same structure. You move your pawn up, even though it's locking things up with the bishop pair, got to be a little careful about that, but you take some more center that way. And the doubled pawns prevent black from coming in with the knight. So they have the 2 knights, but they can't quite use them, right? But this is an interesting concept to come into F4. Plays G4. This has been played, a lot of draws. This has been played before. 64% draws. White does a bit better, but a lot of draws there.
So G3 would be too like weakening, right? Like to keep the knight away.
No,
Like-
actually G3 is the most common move. Good
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
also they're all draws. But yeah, you can go G3. I think honestly, I wouldn't play D4. I think that's a bit committal. Well, it worked out for him. But yeah, I like G3. Maybe later, you know, castle, and then maybe later you push your central pawn, even D3. If it were me, I would actually like to go, probably a lot of people did that with G3. They end up playing F4 later. Like if you look at that for a little bit, if you look at the main line, let's see. Say I do this. Oh wow, lots of draws. But I would imagine this. Oh, see, black gets some initiative. But I would imagine that some people would play for F4. And just these people went for D4, but they didn't. Well, it's a draw. It's a draw and a win. 2200s. Yeah, he never got his F4, but you know, he has a little center. It's pretty what balanced position. Equal chances, looks like. Okay. So anyway, he comes into F4. So far so good for Nepo. He's fine. Now this ended up turning against him. Oh, this has been played by Richard Rapport before, and White won that game as well. But what happened here, this is the beginning of his central domination, actually. So what happened is, okay, so White has the bishop pair. White gives the bishop pair back. So we both have a knight and the bishop, same color bishop. So equal materially, right? No imbalance there. But you see, how does he begin to control the center more with this move?
Well, no, he has the 3 pawns in the middle.
Yeah. Well, you've tossed aside his e pawn, right? It's kind of like in a king's gambit, where you try to get them to take your F pawn. He didn't have to give away his F pawn though, but you try to get black to take your F pawn. So you toss it aside. Now he has, so of the central pawns, we have 2 versus 1. So note that first. Central, just a very natural centralization, right? Nothing fancy really. So you guys can see, you guys can play like that, right? You guys can do this.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? Now then you have to find, but you got to find this move now. You got to turn it into your advantage. What's that?
No, I said, why not?
Yeah,
Yeah,
why not? A lot of it's very straightforward, really. But you have to, except for this move, that's deeper, but you'll understand it. Lynn, you actually mentioned this. I think you're the one who mentioned. A couple of you guys were talking about. I think you were talking with John and Leia and Andrew. Yeah, you guys all had some thoughts about this. Nikki,
David.
why C5? What's that? Uday, you said, Uday, is it coming through? I heard you say something.
Yeah, can you just like run through the game again from the start? I just missed a bit.
Yeah, just get the flow of it. So we have a 4 knights, kings English, it said.
Yeah, like just for a sec, could you just?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry, the
double
screen's
the
black.
pawn.
Just yeah,
It's
from the
lagging.
start, please.
Yeah, I think mine might be it might be me. Maybe it's both of us. Okay, you see this position? You see this? Yeah, I think you might be lagging. You could open it yourself too. Just go to, if you want to catch up on it, why don't you just open up the broadcast, go to watch broadcast and watch round 4. Yeah, watch round 4, okay? Just play through up to here so you can catch up. Go up to move like 10. Maybe more. But yeah, so this is interesting. So goes E4, but just taking some center. Well, let's say, yeah, this is ambitious to go D4. It is the, again, it won 27%, drew 64%. I guess you guys can do the math in terms of how many times, what is that? Is that like 19% wins? Something like that. All right. So it takes, castles, queen f6, rook fe1, rook e8, bishop d3. So all very natural, right? But now this is a really nice idea. So why c5, guys? In the same vein as bishop takes f4. So he makes 2 decisions that relate to what? What are they? What does this all revolve around?
control the center.
Right. Why does that help you to control it? It's like, now this is literally the same. It's funny. Remember I said this is similar to like a king's gambit. Again, it's interesting. The benefit is you get like a king's gambit kind of thing, but you don't sack your f-pawn. You keep your nice tight king positioning. Now this is like a queen's gambit in effect in terms of the pawn structure. Why?
Queen's gambit because he takes the pawn and you get. He's not gonna take back, obviously, so he's just gonna start like pushing forward.
Right, but in terms of the
what I'm
arising
getting.
structure, it's as if you had gone c4, pawn takes, and then yeah, then you end up bypassing, but effectively you remove the d pawn from the center. So we got rid of their, so black no longer has any central pawns, white has 2, objective achieved. And then he immediately asserts himself in the center, and we can already see white is only down a pawn currently, but look at this compensation.
Yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, he unleashes a threat. So of course on the queen, but there's a discovery. What's the discovery? Discovered attack.
H7.
H7's under attack, so the queen has to guard it. She gets offsides.
So he gets a little
Knight is
tension.
offsides, queen's offsides, bishop's doing nothing. Have to worry about your f-pawn sometimes. These pawns are rolling as he does, and I think you can say that white has an edge now. White's down a pawn with massive compensation. It's all about, forget about the c pawn, it's all about your center right now, yeah? But it's interesting because in the previous game, at least it began with Nepo having the queenside play, but I think it's just not adequate queenside play for Ding. I'm sorry, for Nepo in this case. So in this case, yeah, in this case, he's also trying to go for the queenside perhaps, but it's not enough. And in this case, the center is going to reign victorious. But keep in mind though, in the last game, even though he began with the queenside advances, he also had the G file, and ultimately he did smash the center, right? It just began from it kind of cascaded from the flanks, right? But he had the weakness to attack. But this is just a different scenario because black just doesn't really have a substantial pressure here, right? It's got to be tied down to this, and he's got the rook adequately guarding e5. He's going to play c4 in the next move. See, it looks all nice, Nepo centralizing, but he goes c4, it's feckless, right? And everything's guarded. And again, look at the knight. That's pretty awful. By the time he reroutes the knight, aha, there's h3 by Ding again. He loves h3, doesn't he? But this time it's at least purposeful. I mean, he's saying you want to sack your piece. I guess he can handle that. Yeah, interestingly, actually, it's totally fine. I think what he would do is maybe bishop f5. And the queen has to leave because he can't check. She can check there. And I'm sure this is not a huge deal. You can probably just centralize your queen or threaten the pawn or something like that. And he's up a piece. So yeah, so he goes back and then he centralizes with the bishop. And again, funny enough, again, this time it's not the d pawn, it's the e pawn that's quote hanging, but it's not hanging because indirectly defended by Nikki.
The rook, yeah.
Yep, you saw that, Lynn, as well. Yep. So the rook is defending through the X-ray. Now we have discovery, and we'll just don't forget to take their queen. Don't hang your queen. And then this is hanging, and you're just up in exchange. So something like that, or this. And then he guards it now. It's really nice play. Look at how tight that is. And see now that he has this advantage, right? So again, this is this in terms of playing like a GM, right? Like a super GM. This is the trickiest part. Well, first of all, you don't want to let him double those pawns and open your game. So you go back. But this is a really nice move. When you look at it, like you just have to think of it. Also, you undouble your pawns. Keep that in mind. It's the kind of thing. I think it's an Alekhine game like that. He undoubles his own pawns for the sack. Then he doubles his opponent's pawns. So you flip it on him, right? Even though it's an extra pawn for black. But in doing so, it's also taking him away from the center. So really important stuff to understand right here. This, I think, is the main thing. Once you look, if you can do this, you understand this concept, you will be able to do these types of things in your own games. You don't have to do it exactly like him, you don't have to do it like 2800 level, but if you could beat a 16, 1800 like this, and beyond. So you can use, I found myself, you study the game, I'm like, oh, cool, I got to use that concept from their game,
Yeah.
The more concepts like this, the more you get to use it. Yeah, you guys have probably seen that, right? It sounds like it's far-fetched, but no, you can literally make these, you can literally carry these out, right, Nikki? Nikki, you've seen that, yeah?
Like, I'm always so materialistic. I'm like, oh no, nope, gotta guard everything. Everything needs to be guarded. It'll be fun to try something like this in a game.
Yeah, and of course, you study a lot of GM games, and you see that they often are not materialistic because they have a justification. So yeah, but then you try it out, and you're like, oh, cool, that worked. Maybe it doesn't work, and you learn from it. But of course, it's circumstantial. It's not always going to work.
Right.
It's about how you judge the position, how you your technique after you make that sacrifice, or whether you should accept their sacrifice. Of course, sometimes it'll work, sometimes it won't. But you learn and you hone it, so you're more likely to work than not.
Yeah, I like when that
of course, you got to
happens
do your
in
risk
my games.
management. What's that, Andrew?
I like when that happens. I undouble my pawns.
Yeah, you undouble yours, you reverse it on them.
I'm like,
Even
oh
though
man,
it's
look how
giving them
smart I
pawn, but
am.
it's all about your center here. That's what it's all
Yeah.
about. Fluid center. What's that?
I always pat myself on the back. I'm like, oh, look how smart I am.
I just know what do you say? You catch them on what?
That's
pat
a
myself
good
on the
thing to
back.
do, Andre.
When I undouble my pawns.
And then
I'm
you
like, oh,
feel
look how
smart.
smart I am. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, you gotta pat yourself on the back, baby.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, we said pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, exactly. You deserve it. So it's cool, and you carry. So again, like double pawns aren't always bad, but in this case, like there's no need for it. And most importantly is you pull them away. You have fluid center. That's the most important thing to understand. And now it's technique, nice, just attractive, just like kind of very aesthetically pleasing in a way. After this, because you're just solidifying everything, and now you could just sense your domination, obviously, with the pawn on e6. Now, interestingly, you are allowing his knight to come in to blockade your d pawn. So that's but you kind of had to look. I mean, he's playing f6. He is chipping at your dark squares. You can't do anything about that. You ended up pushing your pawn to d5, so that already is giving up some dark squares. It's just a compromise you got to make. But on the flip side, you do have a pawn on e6. You do have a thorn in his side. or right in his belly.
Yeah,
That's no fun. Okay, now he apparently goes about the wrong plan with knight f5. But this is where the good stuff, really fun stuff begins. Okay, we trade. But again, this is where kind of tactics flow from the superior position, or we just can begin to execute, but we have cool ideas. Now we have our exchange stack coming up. Okay, well, he does have an attack on the f pawn, so he guards it. And you see the knight's well placed, just like what the bishop was covering too. So you have to be careful. You know, his main asset here is the f pawn. He has the knight hovering, but well, finally he came back in the game, right? Took him a while, but now the f pawn is really the main concern. You don't want him to chip at your position, you know, get the h pawn or something. So he's keeping an eye on f3 with the bishop and the knight and the queen, right? So be careful for the one thing they can do. And obviously they had pressure on your e pawn. That's been dealt with. Nice pawn chain, can't really demolish that. So everything's great. You're in control. And then he does this move, which it says is a mistake, and you can see the evaluation spiking. And guess why? Why is this good for him?
Exchange.
This is your exchange stack, as we know. Now again, we're kind of following through on our idea, just, you know, steamrolling him in the center, and we don't want to waste any time. But why do you do that? I mean, I suppose you can look at a move like queen takes f4, right? So why do you do the exchange stack?
I was gonna loosen up that whole pawn cluster over there,
Yeah.
and help the d pawn move it along.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And also you're going to get your knight mobilized too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because he's controlling, like right now he has total control basically over d4. When you take this, now you get to d4. How are you getting to d4? Who's going to go to d4? And keep in mind, blacks, again, it's even worse here than the previous example. From the previous one where the rooks, he's up in exchange, but the rooks are so bad. You're the one who has the better rook than theirs. Like, haha, take that. I give him an exchange,
rook,
yeah. and your extra rook that you have for my knight is feckless, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that rook's going nowhere.
Yeah, both of them. And then your knight's gonna so your rook is better than their rook, your knight's better. So in Spanish they say calidad for exchange, means the quality. So it's like, what's the quality of the piece? Well, I guess the rook is a better quality piece, generally speaking, which is why, you know, they say you win the quality. I guess it would be considered the quality piece. But in this case, it's the knight is proven to be of higher quality, right? So what does the knight do?
He moves to e4.
One move is e4. Think about your future of your knight, though. Got to give him a bright future. Where's he
Okay,
going?
let me give him a bright future.
Yeah, he's a little stuck. He looks nice, but he's not really going anywhere in life, right? Give him something else to do.
Okay, how about no.
Yeah, you probably got it. What are you thinking? What's another
I
route? Yeah, give it a shot. What's another route for him?
was thinking e5, but then that wouldn't work.
Where else can he go? Well, keep in mind, you just did this move. You just took and then took back with the pawn. How do you exploit that? What are we at now? Is it equal pawn? No, actually, we're still down a pawn currently, right? Because we sacked the pawn. Wow, so he's down 3 points. He's down 3 points in material, but computer says he's up 2 points. So it's kind of like as if he had 5 points of compensation for his material, right? But he's going to get some back, of course, while his opponent is just totally clustered. So what else can the knight do, Lynn? What's another? Just look at all your possible paths for the knight.
You said the knight.
Yeah, where it's going to be a knight.
Okay. The
Because
knight.
pretty much, you know, you can't really do that much now with your queen or your rook, but your knight definitely
Knight
needs.
could go to where e4.
Yeah, no, that's the one where he can do more with his life because he's not really going anywhere. If you look at the squares he can reach, he's not really getting in from there. What else can he do though?
B3. and
Could he
take back the
just
pawn.
reroute himself to f1 and then go back up to h2?
Oh, that's a feasible rerouting. That happens sometimes. And then g4, you can.
I mean, I don't know how much time is involved here, but
No, he has time because that's another thing. He's in control here. He really is. This pawn is really strong. So you
Yeah,
can't go anywhere. You pretty much, you have
The
time.
answer is not simple.
Where else can you go? What's one other route he can take? Look at all the routes and figure out which one's best. Uday, you saw something?
Actually, Andrew did.
B3.
The answer is very simple. There's no need to complicate it.
What's complicated, Uday?
I was saying that the answer is quite simple. There's no need to overcomplicate it by going to like F1 and H2 and whatever.
Yeah, those are all candidate moves, candidate maneuvers, essentially. What's the simple way? Andrew said it.
okay, he could go to B3 and then
Just
take
take it. Just take
B4,
it.
yeah,
And you get your pawn back.
yeah.
So you're just down in exchange, but this can't be a good move.
What?
G5 opens up F5. Now he's
Yeah.
gonna fork him.
Yeah,
C5.
what?
And even if you don't fork him, you don't care. It's like, remember, Nikki, we were talking about that, my position.
What
where
if he went
we said,
C5?
oh, it's so tempting. Remember my move, knight F5 in the DC chess league?
What if he went
Got the
C5?
exchange back, but then I had to deal with the 2 pieces for my rook. It's like, it's kind of like how you don't need to cash in with that knight on F5. Just let him sit on F5 and be strong. Remember what I'm talking about, Nikki?
Mm-hmm.
You were like, yeah, I would have just dropped my knight on F5. Yeah, certainly now. But you don't need to take the exchange if you could do it later. But that knight is so powerful on F5.
Mhm.
Can't stop it. See, he's gonna anchor it in. Now he's just coming in. That's it. And he's winning. Just unstoppable threats. I mean, overwhelming pressure. So again, you're down in exchange, but this is an example where really nice example of having so much compensation, very clear, right? And like I said, there's very few complications here. Just down in exchange with it, but the better quality piece. I mean, that's again, purest example of justification for an exchange sack. Just having a better knight or better bishop than their rook. Or just, their rook might be okay, but your pieces just, your pieces just work together well. But it's also about the initiative. Keep in mind, like I said, we're steamrolling him. It's also, you don't really want to react too much. You have to start moving around. You won't have.
What if he went C5
You
instead of
just
G5?
rest the initiative here. Just keep going. You have a huge.
Wait, why
initiative.
G5? That seems like
What's that?
why G5? That seems pretty bad.
No, yeah, it's bad. I have no idea. What else does he have? Yeah, it's just.
Maybe
What about
C6 or
C5?
something?
What's that?
What about C5?
Yeah, C5 seems like. Well, then again, you can't take anything right now. But why is it bad positionally, Uday?
A4, A5.
There's that. Something else. More permanent feature here.
D6.
I mean, yeah, you
Well,
could.
they're blockade, they
eventually-
can't go anywhere.
Yeah, and Uday, did you see something else?
Yeah, you can push the pawns once you've
Right,
defined
when
them,
you're
but-
ready. But it's true. He's granting him 2 connected basketball. And Lynn, you're saying they're still stuck. This is coming
Yeah.
eventually. That's always the threat. And yeah, your move too, Uday. Well, the funny thing is, again, we're happy to open files because they're so tied down. We could play as if we're the one with the extra exchange, and you could come around and, try to take his B pawn or something like that. Well, yeah, you can chip at this and maybe just come this way with the queen/rook and take this one. But if we can simply guard this a little more, then we're ready for it. Maybe you could do it tactically.
Queen
You might
G4.
have some scenarios where you can tactically just push it. Right?
Oh, wait. Can't he just push now?
Was that? No, he didn't do this. Oh, well, you might be able to.
No,
I'm
bad.
thinking you
He
might do a
did that.
prophylactic move like King H2 today. There might be somebody who
No,
can't take with check.
No. What I was thinking was D6, rook takes E6, queen D5, but he has F5. That's the problem.
Okay.
Oh no, wait. I think you can do it because after F5 you can push D7.
After F5, what?
Or right now you can push D6. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, queen. Yeah. Now I think F5 is the only move.
Yeah, that's losing. Right, that's losing. Over. Yeah, then you win. Then you win there.
Oh, that's nice.
So does he have any defense? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have pin. Same
So
thing.
C5.
Just push. Yeah. So you literally, even if you didn't have it now, it would be winning. But that's okay. I'll be right there. Okay. But you literally have just an immediate justification. Even if not, you still win. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay, she wants to eat some. Okay, I'm gonna go get it. Okay, okay. I'm coming. Okay, I'll just go through, but you can see what happened. Okay, right there. Yeah, you can see what happened. Just pushes through, and there's the breakthrough. Fork. And then he's got the exchange back. And then it's just
Ouch. Yeah.
polarizes it. And look at the extension, that G5 move, right? He's overextended. Okay, right there. And then, yeah, and then you're just coming down here now. And then he's too exposed. And by the way, you can't go here. I think there you go, game over. There's that pin, just like pin here. Now we have the pin here and game over. All right. So the queen has to blockade. Stop. And then we're coming in. Yeah. Okay.
Aw,
All right.
I see a curly haired
Stop.
young little munchkin.
Yeah, and that's it. It's getting through.
Mhm.
Yeah, but the king is exposed. You just can't hold off that fast pawn. You guys have any questions about that one?
No, it was very interesting.
Yeah, both were great. Great
Yeah, we
games.
saw one win by each, and then there was another win by Nepo, which I'd recommend checking out. Most
Okay.
recent one. Yeah, so just really, really nice play. So this was just clean, kind of restriction and counterplay. Nepo really never had anything going. Yeah, he had an exchange. That's about it, right? He had a bad example of an exchange, but you see that. Oh, there she got something. She's good. But you see, he really made use of his center. That's really the game, you know. He took the pawn, pulled away from the center. He sacked the other pawn. So it's kind of like Queen's Gambit / King's Gambit ideas. Both are using an F and C pawn, or making them move to the F file and C file. Exact same concept, right? Ultimately giving you this massive center and misplaced black pieces, especially the knight, and the queen, and the bishop, and the rooks.
Yeah.
Everything, yeah. You have
Anyone
what
else?
happens when you have a huge center, you repel their pieces, you know. And
Yeah.
they're really concerned about, you know, advancing, you know, striking terror in their rings, right? So, and then it's just, you know, actually simplifying helps him. And then he's simplifying, even though he's sacking the exchange, it's further simplification because he just has a better piece. All his pieces are better, but really it's beautiful the fact that, you know, when he knows, I suppose F6 wasn't a good move then. I don't know. Because F6, I mean, he locks it. Well, really, he's trying to fight for dark squares. He said, look, if I don't do this, my knight's miserable on B7.
Right.
But see, you clearly see what he wanted to do, though. His plan was to go knight D6 to F5 to D4, which doesn't work. So, but again, it was misconceived, but it was just such a tough position, honestly, to hold, right? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have our knight B3. And yeah, Nepo was just playing, I mean, honestly, it just wasn't his game. I mean, the few moves, like, okay, the knight D4 move wasn't good. Allowing the
better
big
plan?
center wasn't good. Was that?
What was the better plan there? I mean, I don't want to hold you up any longer, but I was just curious, like instead
No,
of
it's
the
fine.
idea.
No, she's good now. I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. It's a very tough position, stuck between a rock and a hard place. But
Yeah.
G5 just can't be G5 just
No.
can't be the right move. Computer suggested, let's just see what it says real quick to see if it gives us any, again, to use it for some ideas maybe. So we have it's suggesting D3. Just go to D4 anyway. D2, okay, just you'll take it back. But the thing is, black just has no counterplay.
Mm,
So you get your pawn back. But this at least he puts up some resistance. Okay, there you go. Gains a little more space, but there's nothing here still. Oh, there's Uday's idea. Lock him up. Lock it
Yeah.
up there, A5. Stop white's pawn, Queen C3. Okay. I don't know. See, now you have computer moves like Queen
Yeah.
C3 and C1.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's gonna take, the point is he has nothing right now. He can like stick his knight on C6 or something. You know, he can still keep pressing. And meanwhile, black clearly has nothing to do.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, rather than G5, yeah, that's all we can do. And then for white, no matter what, that knight's coming in. And as we saw, playing C5 is just horrendous. no counterplay, and it's psychological too. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
I like this en
Hey,
passant.
David, are we
I
gonna
like
play a
the result.
game?
What's that? Play a game? Oh yeah, you want to play a game, you said?
Well, thank you so much, David. I'm gonna
My
roll off,
pleasure.
guys. Take care, everybody.
Bye,
All right.
bye.
See you later. Yeah, I think
Have a great
I think you
weekend,
guys got
everybody.
it now.
Enjoy the
Take care.
weather.
Nice
Okay.
job, Nikki. Great
Okay,
participation.
thank
You guys
you.
have some great
Bye,
ideas.
Okay, bye,
All
guys.
right, see you next time.
See ya.
Maybe I'll get a game with Uday as well.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna check out 2 days.
Yeah, it's already 2, so nice
Yeah.
job, guys. Here, I'll stop.
All right, thanks very much, David. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, Lynn.
See
Great
ya.
to see you again.